everyone, my name is Yakshini Priya, and in today's video I'm going to be doing an illustration which is basically a journey themed, journey across the ocean involving a ship, and it's going to have a vintage sort of a distressed look. So that's what I'm creating today, and I'm going to be using a variety of mixed media for this entire artwork. So you can see initially I did the sketch of all the different items I wanted to include on this. And this drawing, I drew them all in a planning sketchbook that I use for planning. And then from there, I transferred the images onto my watercolor paper. And then now you can see I'm just using a sepia color fine liner just to go over all those initial sketches. These are just the basic outlines. I am going to come through a little later and add more details and also really get those shadows and everything in for this drawings for each particular item. If you want a list of all the supplies I'm using, they will be in the description box below. So once again, I did all the illustrations in another sketchbook and used transfer paper to transfer it to my watercolor paper, just so that I don't have a lot of erasing of graphite lines, so we don't want any damage to the final paper that I'm using. Now I'm just going in and starting to add some of those details that I spoke about earlier, just adding more shadows and really defining those shadow areas, the details of each item. Still using the sepia color fine liner, but I'm using a thicker nib because I'm trying to get much more detail in there and really make the images look three-dimensional. Now I'm using a variety of different reference photos for these illustrations. These are all just references to see the images, but I have changed some of them to make them more suitable for this particular spread that I've created. So the reference photos that I am using are all royalty free, so just bear that in mind when you are using reference photos as well. Definitely this piece was a lot of fun to create. I enjoyed it a lot. Firstly working with the mixed media and then also having so many different items on one page to work on. This is an A4 size page, so it could fit I could fit a lot of different items onto this drawing. So now I'm going over the entire piece with a wash of watercolor. So this is, I'm using a pen set and I'm just using a combination of two different browns just to get that aged look. So the page gets that aged vintage look. And I'm not too worried if any of the brush strokes show or where the one area doesn't blend through to the other area. If there's any division points showing or any splatters or anything like that. I'm not too worried if it shows through because it's going to add to the entire look of the piece. So I'm not too concerned about that. Even the different splotchy, different browns, if it has a little bit darker brown here and there, that adds to the aged look of the paper. So I'm fine with that. So once that's completely dry, I do use a hair dryer to dry on a low setting to dry the entire piece, as well as the paper flattens out once you use heat to dry it. So once it's completely dry, I'm going to be using my distress ink just to give that entire piece that distressed look. So you can see I'm using this round sort of a sponge brush, just dabbing it onto the ink, and I'm basically applying it to the entire piece. Now I am using a brown distress ink. Like I said, all the supplies will be listed in the description box below that I'm using. So you can see I'm just going around dabbing it to the edges of the entire page. I am also going to distress the main illustration as well in the center of the page. I'm going to cover the entire page, but I'm just going to leave it a little blotchy so that you have those little patches that are darker and then the other patches that are lighter, and it's like, it looks really aged and vintage. So that's what I'm aiming for. Now, this is definitely something I've been wanting to try for a long time, and I've been wanting to do. So I'm really glad that I actually tried it out now. So now I'm going to be using my stamps that I got with the alphabets to just put these little words in between the little drawings of each of the items. So you can see I'm using the same color or the same distress ink pad for the writing because I wanted to have that brown, dark brown look. And you can see I'm just stamping in the words just in very different directions, and I'm not paying too much attention to it being even or really being in line with all the alphabets being in line. The more distorted it is, the more like authentic it looks, I feel. So yeah, this was really something I enjoyed doing, working with the stamps and the distress ink. This is actually the first time I'm using distress ink, and it's a long time since I've used stamps. So yeah, I've really enjoyed working on this entire piece. It was really, really a lot of fun. Now there you can see what happened there is I didn't stamp the Y correctly, and then it was like too light. So I tried to stamp over, but then it looked like it was doubled. So I just used a brush with a little bit of water and I blended out that Y. And while I'm working on the rest of it, I'm just letting that dry. And I am going to come through with the, once it's dry, I'm going to come through with the Y again and reapply it, stamp it on, just to complete the word journey. So that's a simple fix. If it would have went on too dark, I wouldn't have been too worried. But because it was too light, you couldn't see the alphabet, so it looked a little bit incomplete. So I wanted it to be a little bit more visual so you can see it. So now I'm just going through distressing the page here and there again. Certain places that looked like it was a bit too light, so I just went through and distressed it a bit more. And then I'm just using the stamp. I stamped the Y in, and yeah, now I'm just going through with my watercolors again. I'm using a darker brown just to bring out some of those details in each of the items on this illustration. That just really ties everything together, and the items don't look so like without any depth in them. The items look more three-dimensional and have more depth and details in them by adding these different tones of browns and just adding those little details with the watercolor with the watercolor paints. You can see how just adding that little bit of watercolor here and there to each item really brings the item, makes it look real. So I think that's definitely something that helps to tie in this entire piece. So I really enjoyed working on this piece and having a mixed media piece. I never realized I'm going to enjoy it this much. So definitely I will be trying this out again. So I guess that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to like and share. Feel free to comment below and don't forget to subscribe. Till the next one. Bye.